Hey guys, this is Rajesh Trivedi from Alert. Alert is an NGO that works towards a better emergency response ecosystem, marching steadily towards the goal set for it by the former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who said, one in every family needs to be trained in emergency care so that common people like you and me can be empowered to save lives. In the previous episodes, we have addressed our own inhibitions and the fears that we need to overcome to go handle a situation and help the victim of an emergency. In this episode, we will take a look at, now that we are ready, when we go inside, how to handle some emergencies which we see in day-to-day life, such as bleeding and fractures. Bleeding is loss of blood because of an injury, either to the skin or to any other cavity, muscles and all that sort of allows the blood to flow out of its regular circulatory system. Bleeding consists of two types, one internal bleeding and two external bleeding. Internal bleeding is loss of blood which happens within the body, and many a times it becomes even hard for us to know that there is internal bleeding unless and until the victim complains of any pain or it shows up in the form of a bluish black skin, because the blood inside the body that is oozing out of the circulatory system begins to clot and it shows up as the color of a black or a bluish color outside the skin. Now the other symptom could be that the victim starts suddenly complaining about a lot of thirst after a fall or after an injury, and it could be one of the indicators of maybe an internal loss of blood. Now, in such cases, there is very little as a first responder we can do in internal bleeding, but that we have to immediately rush the victim to the doctor so that immediate diagnosis can happen. Many a times psychologically the victim could be denying help because nothing visible is seeming to be impacted. But as a first responder, it is our fundamental duty to advise the victim to take professional help. The other type of bleeding is external bleeding, which is very visible to our eyes. The loss of blood can be seen, and within external bleeding there are like three types of bleeding that is absolutely possible, and that is incision, abrasion and amputation. Now, incision is a type of wound where a sharp object penetrates into different layers of the skin, probably as deep as even 4-5 centimeters. And abrasion is a superficial wound where a few layers of the skin can get scraped off, and amputation is a severe injury where a part of the body could possibly be even got cut off from the rest of the body. Now, some of the important don'ts to remember while specifically handling bleeding, and specifically during incision, is not to remove the foreign object. When I say foreign object, it could be a nail, it could be a needle, or it could be a knife, or it could be anything that has penetrated into the layers of the skin. Now, it is advisable that you can remove these foreign objects under the supervision of a professional doctor or a nurse or a paramedic, but as a first responder, do not try to remove the foreign object from the location. The other important thing to remember not to do is to ensure that you do not apply pressure directly on the region where you find the foreign object. You got to use pressure either on top or on the bottom, depending on where the wound is. So do not try to apply pressure on the place where you got a incision that has happened. Now, one of the fundamental things to do, whether it is incision or abrasion, is to take a clean piece of non-sticky cloth and apply pressure on the region where the blood is oozing out. Of course, as I said, during incision, it cannot be on the region, it has to be on top of the region. But as far as abrasion is concerned, you can take a clean piece of cloth and apply pressure directly on the place where the blood is oozing out. And once you have done that, elevate that portion of the body above the level of the heart so that the rate of flow of blood to that portion is reduced. Now, because the rate of flow of blood is reduced on one side, and also because there is a pressure happening from the outside, the blood loss will be controlled and this will reduce the loss of blood. So this is for abrasion. In terms of amputation, which as I said is a severe injury, the additional steps need to be taken care so that the bleeding is controlled by taking a clean piece of cloth and arresting the bleeding. And sometimes during these kind of situations there can be profuse loss of blood. When I say profuse, there can be lots of volumes of blood being lost. So simply one piece of cloth may not be enough to arrest the bleeding. So in case more cloth is required, go ahead and use more cloth, but do not remove the cloth that has already been used. You take another piece of cloth and apply it on top of the cloth that has already been used, and keep adding more and more and more on top if required, but do not remove the cloth unless and until it is done under professional supervision. So in terms of the organ or the part of the body that is cut off, one additional responsibility as a first responder you will have to do is to pick that particle, pick that organ or the part of the body, put it in a plastic cover, seal the cover, and ensure that this is placed inside either ice water or any other pack which is of reduced temperature than room temperature, and quickly rush the victim and the organ of the cut off organ to the hospital as early as possible, to check the possibility that if the organ can be stuck back into the main portions of the body, and that is for amputation. Now generally when we say bleeding and when we say severe bleeding, what occurs to our mind is more about probably it's a head injury or other parts of the body where there is more visibility, the face, the head, the hands, so on and so forth. But we have got to be watchful about bleeding happening in certain other areas where if it starts bleeding, arresting the bleeding becomes most important priority, because loss of blood is much faster and sooner in those regions. And those regions in our body are when the bleeding happens in the abdomen or the belly region, the chest, or the thigh and the leg region. So anytime you find bleeding in these regions, definitely the priority needs to go for arresting bleeding in these 4 regions first before you start attending to other things, other emergencies that could have happened to the same victim. Now, making a wound dressing, it's a very simple way to do it, but when done methodically, you will know that there is a very efficient way of arresting bleeding. So for which what you will need to do is to protect yourself. If you have a pair of gloves, first of all put on a pair of gloves, because you're going to be helping somebody with arresting bleeding. You do not want to directly be in contact with that region of the person who is bleeding. So put on your gloves and you take a gauze swab or in a first aid kit, or you just take a dry piece of cotton cloth and place it on the region that is bleeding. You take a gauze bandage and then you roll the bandage over on top of the gauze cloth, the cotton cloth that has been kept, and apply a little pressure, retain that pressure, and you tie a knot to an extent that how tight you will have to tie is something you have to be mindful of, that it should not be too tight and at the same time it should not be too loose. And one recommendation there for tightness is you ask the victim himself or herself to put one finger, even probably the little finger, before you start tying it, and the victim should be able to easily remove his finger, and that's how tight the bandage needs to be on the victim. Once you have had the bandage tied up and ensure that the pressure is on the region where it is bleeding, elevate that portion above the level of the heart, and then in that position rush the victim to the hospital for ensuring that there is no further loss, or if there is any other further treatment that is required for the victim. Now the injury could actually go deeper, and beyond just the skin, it could actually break a bone. And most of the times the longer bones are the ones that are exposed to fractures, and when there is a breakage in a bone, in any of the bones that is there in the part of the body, it is called a fracture. The mantra to remember whenever we are handling a victim who is having a fracture, whether arm or leg, is immobilization. When I say immobilization, you will got to ensure that the part of the body that is already broken, the broken bone, does not further move, does not become a case for further breakage. So you might have to rush the victim to wherever he or she is to the hospital, and on the way you got to ensure that further movement is totally arrested. Many a times we may not have the right equipments in hand to ensure that the arms are taken care of for immobilization. So we'll have to look around and see what is it that you can lay your hands at. At best it could probably be a few pieces of cloth, it could be a scale, it could be any other wooden particle that is available with you, using which you can make a sling and start arresting somebody's fracture. How do you go about doing that? Let me explain that to you. So usually a person who is having a fracture will complain of excruciating pain. So when he is doing that, you know which arm has a fracture. So you take a clean piece of, you'll get hold of rectangular lengthier cloths. So you take one piece of such a cloth, roll it around, roll it over in such a way that it becomes a nice piece of a cushionary comfort that can be offered to the victim by placing it underneath the armpit of the victim. Now that gives a very strong support for the victim, not only sort of helping him in pain, but ensuring that it doesn't move that very easily. Take another piece of cloth and use the complete length of the cloth to arrest the arm, the first half of the arm that is broken, and tie it on the opposite side of the victim so that the broken arm's first half is totally arrested. Now by this what happens is the one half of the arm and the cloth that is there underneath the armpit ensures that this person will be able to move the part one and only when he is able to move the complete upper part of the body. Now you take another cloth which is rectangular, convert that into a triangle by simply joining the opposite vertices of a square cloth, and use the vertex, the 90-degree angle, use it at the point, towards the point where the broken arm is there, and place the opposite end on the opposite shoulder. Take the other end of the cloth and take it around the neck and ensure that you can neatly tie it behind the neck of the person, thereby making it like a makeshift sling within which the arm can be very neatly placed without any further movement. Now this will ensure that the broken arm, we have not fixed the arm yet, but this way you are ensuring that the broken arm having no more scope for movement and no more mobilizing can be possible, and now you rush him to the doctor or the hospital for further treatment. You are ensuring that the broken arm remains status quo and is not worsened further. The other place where you will probably usually encounter, or you will have victims encounter fracture, is the leg. So the best remedy if one of the legs is broken, one of the leg bones are broken, is to tie the broken bone, the broken leg, with the other leg which is good. For that you will have to start, tie the legs by tying a knot on three ends, one the thigh, the other at the knee, and the other at the ankle. So for which you will have to make the person sit comfortably down. When the person is sitting comfortably down and his legs are spread forward, you will always find that there is a small space available underneath the knee, using which insert a cloth, take it to the other end, take it through the other side, and drag it closer to the thigh of the person. Same way, insert it again, take another cloth, insert it underneath the knee, bringing it out the other end, and drag it down to the ankle, just as you see here, as it's being done here. Similarly, take a third piece of cloth, insert it under the knee, and bring it out the other end. And one another optional thing you could do is you could probably take another blanket, or you could probably even take a day's newspaper or anything, keep it in between both the legs for cushion, so that there is additional paddedness that is available. Now you have three pieces of cloth, one at the thigh, one at the knee, one at the ankle. So now you can go ahead and make a tight knot of all the three. So you will have a knotted cloth at the thigh, you will have another knotted cloth at the knee, you will have another knotted cloth at the ankle. This will ensure that the broken leg is totally tied with the other leg, and the victim can now no longer move or no longer walk on his own, you will have to assist the victim to take them now to the doctor or for any professional support so that the treatment for fracture can start. But what you have done is you have ensured that the victim is immobilized for no further damage to happen. Now, what if the victim had a fracture in parts of the body other than what we saw so far, especially the spine and the hip? So what happens, it's more sensitive that you have to ensure that the person follows what is a very simple technique called RICE. RICE, as I expanded, it is R, I, C and E. R standing for rest. Rest that injured part for the next about 24 to 48 hours. No movement should be possible, but ask the person to take complete rest. And if there is a complaint of pain until the ambulance arrives or until any professional help arrives, use ice for about 20 minutes and 4 to 8 times per day. And when you say use of ice, it is always the use of an ice pack. Make a pack out of ice, use it for as part of the RICE step procedure. The third is compress for any help to reduce swelling. In case there is a bone protrusion because of the broken bone, or there is a swelling that has happened because of it, there could be excruciating pain. So compress with the ice pack so that the pain can be temporarily relief can be offered. And the fourth is elevate that portion 6 to 10 inches above the level of the heart. So RICE is a very simple technique for all of us, easy to recall, easy to remember, so that anybody having a broken bone, apart from an opportunity to create a sling or tie the leg with the other leg, you can always keep this as a guideline to follow the RICE procedure. R-I-C-E standing for rest, ice, compress and elevate. So now in this episode we have taken a look at what is it that we can do for 2 simple common medical emergencies. So in the next episode I will meet you with 2 more such. Until then, stay tuned.